Hey folks, and welcome back to GameSpot's live coverage of E3 2013 here on Stage 2. As you can tell, I'm not exactly Danny O'Dwyer. I am Shaun McInnis filling in for Danny for a little bit. He'll be back soon. For right now though, we're going to check out Prime World, and I've got Marc Singer here, who is from Nival. And Marc, for anybody out there who's never heard of Prime World, and even the development studio, what's this all about?
Well, Nival is an independent Russian developer, and some of the games we made in the past would be Heroes of Might and Magic 5, Blitzkrieg, Etherlords, and Silent Storm are our big ones. We even just released another game on Steam recently called Prime World Defenders in the same Prime World universe. Awesome,
cool. So we've actually got the game running right here. Let's take a look at this. This is a live demo, right?
Yeah, so what Prime World is it's a mashup of several genres. We have one part session-based combat and one part city builder. And we have a lot of different types of progression. We like to call it our layered progression, both long and fast progression, because we feel like players, they need a lot of instant gratification to be satisfied in games nowadays. And this is part of our long progression. So what the castle system really is you can do a lot of different things here. You will start to build buildings, and they can be upgraded individually, and that'll start to build up an economy. And the resources that you're going to be gathering through these buildings will be used to generate prime crystals. And these prime crystals can be turned into talents. And besides the prime crystals, the resources can be used in other ways as well. Like we have a very robust clan system that you can generate resources and put it into the clan and level up the clan persistently as well, gaining benefits for everyone that's in that clan. So besides the castle part, we also have the heroes. So for people who are really familiar with MOBAs, you generally pick a hero after you've gotten to a match.
Right.
For us, we like to think of our heroes as more of an army that you're starting to build, and you'll hire heroes as you start to play.
Okay, so you're keeping multiple heroes,
yeah,
right?
You're developing multiple heroes persistently. So each hero can be leveled up individually, and they'll be able to get their own stats assigned to them and have their own talents assigned to them as well. And so the talent system is something also that I think separates us from a lot of other games that are similar to us. You have to think of the talents as like Magic the Gathering cards almost. You'll be able to collect them and trade them with your clan mates, and even though you can't level up Magic the Gathering cards, the talents can be leveled up individually as well.
Okay.
And currently we have over 700 talents in Prime World, and we're adding new ones each day. And they can be inserted into any hero, so there's no limitations as to where they can go. So one of the things we encourage our players to do is sort of take characters from one archetype to something completely different. A good example of this is that you could have a really squishy healer character and give him more tanky talents. And if you have a tank, you can give him an extra stun. If you have an AoE healer that's always running low, or AoE damager, you could have an emergency heal on them, or you can even give him a stealth ability. As long as you have the talents, you can just apply it to the hero, and you're on your way. Now, one of the other things that we are pretty proud of is that a lot of games right now we feel are very whitewashed and very male-centric when it comes to hero selection. And one of the things that we've been doing with Prime World since the beginning is that we have a very wide range of characters to choose from.
So you're telling me I'm not going to find a bald Space Marine hero in this game?
Bald Space Marine? No, not quite. What you will find though is you'll find a lot of characters and skins for these characters that range from little kids to old people to all different races and ethnicities and sexual genders even. We have a lot of skins that'll take one character from male to female, and showing right there is actually a disabled character skin.
Oh, okay.
So we really want players to have a lot of player choice, not just in how they build up their castle economy and which hero they're playing or what talents they're selecting, but even how their character looks and really making a character their own.
All right, so just real quick, just to give me an impression of like where this is in a build, like how far along is this right here in terms of like the city building and just the collection of heroes you might gather?
From the beginning?
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, when you start off, you only have a couple of heroes, maybe like 4 or 5 of them. And as you start to build up your castle and go through the questing, we have a fully voiced quest system. It'll unlock a couple other heroes for you as well. But more importantly, as you build your economy and you start collecting silver, you'll use silver to hire more heroes for your army. This castle in particular is not particularly leveled up. It's pretty basic. And we even have members of our community who have put out spreadsheets of the grid system and optimizing absolutely every inch of the castle to maximize their resource gathering.
Right.
let's see who's doing it. But so one of the things that we're actually announcing at E3, which is brand new news for everyone, is that we're going to be bringing the entire castle system to mobile devices.
Okay.
So players will be able to play it on Android and iOS and take the entire castle system, all of its features on the go. So they'll be able to manage their guilds and generate new talents and continue to build up their castle and their army.
Now, does that sync with the PC version of the game?
Yes.
Okay.
It is completely synchronous, and all the features that are on the PC Mac clients will be on mobile for the castle system.
Okay. And so how does that sync? Do you sign up for an account and that's what you log into on both devices, or what?
Yeah, you have an account that's either logged in through Facebook or by email.
Oh, okay. It's easy enough.
Yeah, and you can just sign up for an account easily at playpw.com. But the second, I guess, big announcement for us for E3 is that we're going to be launching on Steam in a couple months, and we'll be going into open beta in a couple months as well.
Oh, okay.
And our first open beta weekend will be the weekend after E3. So we do want to show our PVE mission, though, which is brand new. It's not released yet. No one's played it except for some hardcore beta testers of ours.
All right.
We've been showing it off at E3, but we'll go ahead and go into that match.
So just as a reminder to any folks watching this on Twitch right now, if you have questions for us, feel free to ask in the chat, and we'll do our best to answer anything that you've got.
So before we get into this, one of the things I'd like to mention about Prime World that is pretty important to us is that Prime World is all about layered progression, fast progression and long progression. Like MMOs are really good at long-term progression, but it takes a long time to do things.
Right.
And MOBAs are really good at fast progression, but
then it's all erased.
They lack long-term goals. So we feel like we've taken the best of both worlds and slammed them together and given you a lot to do no matter what it is you're doing. And they're really intermingled too. What you do in the session matters in the castle, and what you do in the castle matters in the session. Every time you open the game, we want players to feel like they're accomplishing something.
Okay. Now, in terms of just like PvE complexity, would you say it skews more towards League or Dota?
You're saying PvP or PvE?
Sorry, I guess PvP.
PvP, yeah. We have a lot of different game modes. We have 8 different game modes.
Oh,
as opposed to, we have a standard
So it's not just
5v5.
the 5v5?
We have the 5v5 standard, MOBA map that players are really familiar with, and a lot of people like to play it. But we also have a 3v3 map, a 4v4 map, which is actually PvP/PvE.
Oh, okay.
Where players battle it out, and fight towards the center of the map through PvE, and then clash into an instant PvP battle in the middle with the dragon. And then we also have, this is our first PvE mission, which is both single player and has a campaign and story to play through, but you can also play it with a group of 3 to 5.
Okay.
And for this mission, it's has 3 main objectives. One is to raise these flags that he's fighting the enemies off of, protect the towers that are in the center, and protect this girl who's generating an artifact that will create a prime explosion. And what prime is this magical substance that both factions, the Doth Imperium and the Keepers of Adornia, are fighting over to control for their own means. So currently the objective is to kill 100 enemies and raise all the flags. And what he'll do is when he raises these flags, there's going to be glyphs that pop up around the flags. And those glyphs will either make your cooldowns a lot quicker, or give you a constant heal or more damage, or even a tower sigil which will heal all the towers that are on the map. So as you level up in Prime World, for people who are not familiar with it, it's pretty standard to most MOBAs. You start at level 0 or level 1, and you'll gain Prime from killing enemies or other players or whatever it is for your game mode, and you'll be able to spend that Prime on talents. And so you can see down there, it's a little bottle. The bottle is filling with the Prime, and it'll show you the next suggested talent in your talent deck. And what it'll do is you can spend that, and see you just grabbed a new talent. And as he levels up, he'll grab those talents. And generally you don't always max level in a session, whether whatever game mode it is. And what we allow players to do with this is they can sort of assemble their deck with almost a hybrid build, where they'll go into a match and be like, oh, I'm really getting crushed, I need more tanking abilities.
Right.
And they'll have set up a couple extra talents to be a little more tanky, and they'll be able to sort of side deck that and pick those up if they really need them. So you're not always stuck to the same lineup of talents and abilities that even you like to pick in order, because you can mold to the situation that you're in.
Okay. Now, so how would you describe the map layout on this one here, this particular type of mission?
So this particular mission, like I say, there's towers along the central part. You also have a healing shrine in the middle as the prime distiller. And you also have this girl who has an artifact that she's charging, which is a part of the story that people will learn when they play it as single player.
Okay.
And you know, there's a lot of different flags in the forest. And one thing you'll notice is that when he picks up this flag here, we have a terraforming feature where the land will suddenly become lush and in your control. And when you're in the other game modes as well, the land will look a little bit different depending on which faction has control of the land.
Okay.
And depending on the game mode, certain talents for characters and their abilities will even benefit from being on your native land. So instead of just being in a lane and controlling a lane, sometimes you'll have to control the flags as well and keep control of the lane for your faction. Hopefully, because this mission is actually a little bit, it's about 20 or so minutes to get through it, so hopefully we'll have enough time to get to the end. But what will happen is a couple objectives are to, you know, kill a certain number of enemies to charge the artifact, and once the artifact's charged, an explosion will go off and kill all the remaining enemies. And what you'll be able to do then is there are 4 points along the edge of the map that you can sort of magically block off. So over the course of the objectives, you'll end up blocking off 3 of the 4 paths for enemies to come from. And that last path is where the dragon will slowly come towards the center of the map for you to defeat him.
Okay. So this is obviously a very deep, very complex game with a lot of systems at work. How would you describe the method you guys are using to ease people into it? What sort of I guess learning options are there available to players?
We recognize in some of the feedback we've gotten from our American and European markets so far is that we recognize that our tutorial lends itself to assume that you know a few things about MOBAs. So what we've done recently, and it's going to be in future patches, is that we've actually separated our tutorial into 2 sections.
Okay.
And it allows you to say, well, I'm more familiar with RPGs, or I'm more familiar with MOBAs.
Okay.
So if you're more familiar with RPGs and, you know, progression and leveling things up, we don't need to explain to you how to do that.
Yeah.
But we do need to explain to you how to control a character in a MOBA setting.
Yeah.
The same thing goes for, you know, if you're familiar with MOBAs, we don't need to teach you how to control your character and attack a tower and right-click an enemy.
Right.
What we do want to teach you is how all the persistent progression works and the intermingling between the castle and the sessions.
Okay. So this is obviously something that's probably going to vary by player, but on average, how much time do you suppose is spent in these matches versus time outside in the more city building type environments?
Well, I think it depends what kind of gamer you are.
Yeah.
Because if you're a hardcore MOBA player, you're going to want to be in sessions all the time.
Right.
And you know you'll spend your time to build up your castle because you feel like it's actually making a difference in your sessions.
Right.
And you want that statistical advantage. But you know we've seen a lot of different players. They'll spend hours configuring their castle and, you know, making sure all the resources are min-maxed and just staying on top of it, while other players are constantly in the session and only placing buildings and upgrading stuff when they absolutely have to. So I think it really just comes down to the kind of player you are. For me personally, I like to spend a lot of time min-maxing my castle. Like, I'm a statistics nut. So if I can squeeze out 0.1 health regen, if I wait an extra 30 minutes, you know, working out my castle, I'll go ahead and do that as opposed to jumping into a match.
All right, just a reminder, guys, if you have any questions in the Twitch chat, feel free to ask me. It looks like you guys are going off on a wild tangent about Seb Ford and just how handsome he is. But if you guys find yourself, I don't know, that conversation hits a lull, feel free to ask some questions about Prime World. So you mentioned that it's currently in beta, right?
Yes, we are currently in closed beta, but we're going into open beta. Our first open beta weekend will be the week after E3, and we'll go into full open beta. There's no set date on that, but soon, I'd say a couple months, and around that time we'll also go on to Steam.
All right. Now, how much of the game is kind of set in stone right now, and you know you guys are super happy with it, and how much of it is open for feedback and changing?
Well, the game has been in Russian beta for over a year.
Okay.
So, you know, when players started jumping in from the US, they had a lot of concerns about balance. They're like, oh, this character's OP, this character's OP, that character. But the reality is that, you know, when it comes to low-level play and, you know, we don't have an advanced or talents all that much, some characters might seem a little more overpowered than others.
Yeah.
And we're trying to reassure our community that players have been playing for quite some time and the balance is actually really good. And, you know, we look to the community for a lot of feedback in regards to all of that stuff. And we've already made a lot of changes, especially in our tutorial and other things, based on the feedback we've gotten back from our American European communities.
Okay.
You know,
now
the community is really important to us. What they want first is generally what we will be prioritizing.
Okay. Now, in terms of the hero selection, are there heroes in there that are just inherently easier for newcomers, and then other ones that are just a lot more complex and maybe kind of skewed towards the more veteran players?
Yeah, I'd say that some characters are a little more easier to learn than others. You know, have a little less abilities, a little more passive. Okay. That doesn't mean that they're, you know, weaker. They just have substitutes. You know, instead of an active ability, they'll have a passive ability that will do something similar, but they won't have to control it as much. But, you know, with the talent system, they can remove even a character's basic abilities if they want to. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it, but they can. And with the talent system, they can also add entirely new abilities to those heroes to make them even more complex than their base.
Mike 1780 says, in regards to the types of items that you're using in-game, how similar is it to a League of Legends type of game?
Well, in a match, there are no items that you'll be adding to the character.
Okay.
We have some potions and scrolls. So the potions will be things like a health, a mana pot, and a speed boost, and that kind of thing. And the scrolls, depending on what game mode you're in, can be acquired and used in different ways. The scrolls essentially will place sort of a rune on the ground, a very large circle, that will give positive stats towards your team and negative stats towards the opposite team or the monsters if they're standing inside of it. Outside of that, we don't have too many other items that players can purchase from the shops that are in the actual levels. Again, we would like to emphasize the talents to be more of like the item builds and the builds for your characters, as opposed to, you know, in the moment buying items in the match. We want you to be prepared way ahead of time and be able to have selection ahead of time, as opposed to doing it in the match.
All right. Now, Dark Python asks, do you have any plans to interact with or do any community live streams, that type of thing, just kind of like show the game in a live streaming environment?
Yeah, we love our streamers, you know, and even in the Russian market, we already have a lot of really big streamers, and we welcome anyone to stream the game. And we never put like an NDA on our closed beta. We said, go ahead, stream the game, put out whatever you want. Cool. You know, we support our streamers fully, and you know, are willing to provide them with exclusive content too, that, you know, they can help spread the word and show it off to other people. And we have a lot of community events. You know, we have a great community manager, and we'll be doing a lot of things revolving around every game mode and the castle system, and, you know, lots of art stuff. And we're really engaged with our community, and everything that they come to us really means a lot to us.
All right, this is a great interaction from the chat. Starlone Gunner asks, do beards affect the abilities of the characters? And Nival_Prime World responds with, beards give +20 sexy.
We're a very beard-friendly company. The more beards, the better.
Well, it's Russia. It gets cold in the winter, right? You gotta keep the face warm.
You gotta cover up all the snow.
Yeah. Let's see. So, Dark Irella 1 says it should be PvP. We should mention that we're doing PvE right now, but that's not the only type of match, right?
Yeah, because, you know, when a lot of people look at our game, they immediately one of our most popular game modes is our our 5v5 match, because people are so familiar with it. But, you know, one of the things we're trying to emphasize is, you know, we're not just another MOBA. We are a lot more than that. With all the persistent progression and player choice, you know, we want people to recognize that we're a competitive RPG. There's a lot of things to do besides being in a MOBA style match.
Right.
And we're going to continue to expand upon those features, add more game modes, and continue our lore and story through PvE, you know, campaign missions and that kind of stuff. You know, because players, you know, they don't always have 50, 60 minutes to go into a match and do 5v5. You know, our game modes range from 3 to 5 minutes if you're getting absolutely crushed in 3v3, up to, you know, the 50, 60 minutes of a 5v5 match. So, you know, player choice is another theme here, I guess, where not just, you know, the character you're choosing and how you set up your talents, what your skins are, what game mode you play, when you play, where you play, because of the mobile castle that'll be coming out soon. So.
Let's see. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Usa Mad K has a question about difficulty settings. Are there any difficulty options in the game?
We have difficulty options for the PvE modes.
Okay.
So, you know, because players will not always have the best talents, they'll be continuing to progress their characters. You'll be able to start off in easy, medium, hard, and go up from that. But the PvP modes don't have any sort of difficulty settings.
Right.
I don't think I've seen a PvP that would.
Other than Gentleman's Agreement, make it easy on you. Let's see. So it seems like we're getting a few people in here who have maybe tuned in a little bit late. So just to recap, what Prime World is all about. Obviously, we're seeing a PVE match right here, very MOBA-like, but there's a whole lot more to the game than that. Can you give folks who are just tuning in, just sort of a quick recap, castle building, and just the broad scope of the game?
Yeah, so Prime World is, one part castle builder, one part hero talent development, and one part MOBA style, matches, whether it's PvP or PvE. And you'll be able to build up your castle, create an economy, work with your clan. Your clans can be leveled up, your buildings can be leveled up, your characters can be leveled up, your talents can be leveled up, everything can be leveled up, and everything is persistent, and everything matters. And so you'll log in, and no matter what you do, you'll be affecting something. And then you have the sessions, the fast-paced gameplay, where you'll either be battling it out against other monsters in the land of Prio or other players in different modes, ranging from 3v3, 4v4, 5v5, co-op, single player, whatever it is. Lots of things to do.
Now, I would imagine that just the development process on building a game like this has got to be tricky, because that's a lot of interlocking parts, a lot of elements that haven't really been combined together before. How would you describe, just what it's been like working on a game like this?
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I'm a hardcore MMO player, top 10 rating guilds my whole life. And, I'm also a hardcore MOBA player. I played Dota, many, many years.
Yeah.
And coming onto this project, I was a little skeptical about the balance of things like the talents. And, as a hardcore gamer, I was like, I don't know if you could, do that. That's
right.
Seems a little out there. A lot of possibilities to be exploited there. But honestly, it's really surprised me that, it's limitless as to what you could do, but it's not overbearing in such a way that you feel like you're cheating in any way, or if even if you do feel like you're cheating, I think that's kind of a good feeling. But yeah.
Okay. Sorry to cut you off there. I was actually just really curious. We've taken so many questions from the chat. I feel like we've lost track of the actual status of the match. Give me an update on the status of this event right here.
So he's actually fighting one of the two mini bosses, or he's killing the mini bosses.
Yeah.
But some other heroes, AI heroes, come in to fight. That's sort of the middle point. He's at 15 minutes into the match, and we say it's about a 20-minute match. So once he clears out this next 100 enemies and keeps all the flags raised, he'll end up getting to the dragon. But you see, he's already become very developed in his talents. I'm going to pull the talent window back up. Maxime, pull the talent window back up. Yeah. So you see, generally players will go from left to right with their talents the way they assign them, but he started to pull talents all the way from the right-hand side of his deck.
Yeah.
And that's because he felt that he needed extra of a different kind of stat or a different kind of talent.
Okay.
And so his character right now has 3 abilities, but on that deck I can see 2 other passive, so there's just adding a new ability to his character entirely right there. That is not a base ability for the character. It was strictly coming from a talent that he's acquired by either crafting it in the castle or from winning other matches.
Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, so he's just playing through this, killing enemies. Now, normally we would have 5 people in this match. We actually have some of our Russian comrades playing with him. I'm not sure what their time is right now, but I'm sure they're very tired because they've been playing with us through E3 the entire time, being very helpful. We're really grateful for that. That's what I'm saying is our community is really dedicated to us. We're really dedicated to the community. They're willing to spend their late hours playing E3 demos with us from afar, and we get a decent hour to play.
All right, folks, just to give you an update, we've got about 5 minutes left on this demo here. Let's see what else is happening in the Twitch chat. Nival Prime World is stealing all our thunder by just vigilantly answering all the questions in the
that's
chat.
Our community manager, Josh. He's really great. Previously, we both worked on Dungeon Defenders, so we've moved along together and are trying to help make this game the best it absolutely can be.
No, Nival Prime World, you don't have to stop. You go ahead and keep answering those questions.
You don't have to stop. See, he's just as dedicated as I am to getting people this information.
He says I work too hard. Mike1780 asks about, are there neutral monsters like a jungle?
Yes. In the different game modes, you'll find jungles or side lanes and that kind of stuff. In the 5v5 match, I guess, is what they're really curious of. Yeah, there is jungling, there is a lot of strategy in that. We even have a mini game in our 5v5 map, which is allows you to create scrolls. So one player, sometimes instead of being a jungler, usually a support hero, will go into the mini game and be sending off scrolls to different players along the map. So, instead of having 2 people in a single lane, you're splitting XP, or, whatever it is, you might put your carry into that lane and send your support hero out to the minigame to send scrolls, which can heal that player and other things, give them advantages in their lane.
All right, now in that PvP environment, the 5v5 match, is it just one map, or are you offering several different types?
For the 5v5 map, or 5v5 mode, there is only one map.
One map, okay.
Yeah.
And how would you describe the layout? Is it kind of like a Dota type map where it's square, bases at either end, 3 lanes?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a little longer as opposed to being square. You don't necessarily L out into the lanes. They're a little more, rounded. But it is 3 lanes with towers along the lane, and then your main base towers and that kind of thing, with a center river and that kind of thing.
So in terms of the the PvP map, you guys aren't trying to reinvent the wheel right there?
No.
It's all the other stuff around it?
Yeah, no, we recognize that, for players who are really familiar with MOBAs, that 5v5, classic mode is something that they're always going to want. And if we try and reinvent the wheel with that, they're going to be like, well, it may or may not be good. So, why even try to do that? That's what we have our other game modes for and our other systems to innovate on.
It's a bit like trying to move around the squares on a chessboard. It's worked for so long. Why mess with it now? Let's see what we've got. Divine Crystal has a question about last hitting.
There is last hitting.
Okay.
Yeah, last hitting, we don't have denying, but we do have last hitting.
Okay.
Last hitting will matter. You'll get more prime for doing last hits on enemies and other heroes. And some characters will even do special things when you get a last hit on a hero. Or a character, or an enemy. Like one of our guys is like a Soul Reaper kind of character, where when he last hits enemies, he'll spawn a little ghost of that enemy up, and it'll follow him around for a little bit and kill things.
Now,
there's the dragon, actually.
Oh, yeah.
So you see he's dropped a scroll on the ground, which is a bird scroll there, which gives him a lot of stats. So to fight this dragon. And it looks like they've done actually really well, considering they're level 30. So they're actually crushing this dragon. Grab another talent there. Hurt one of those guys. Yeah, they took him down pretty easy. So the thing is, they're playing on an easier mode with really high-end talents, so they could have beefed it up if they wanted to, but for the sake of victory, we wanted to show you that. And so one of the things you'll see here is that when you win a session, you're rewarded with talents and resources. And so what the idea here is the intermingle between your castle and your sessions is that what you do in the castle matters in the session, what you do in the session matters in the castle. And you can see all other statistics, how much prime you generated, kills, deaths, assists, that sort of thing. And there's also achievements. So players who are doing more things and getting a lot of kills and gaining the most amount of prime they can, those achievements will actually earn them better rewards for that match. So players who are sitting idle or not helping as much will not get as much as the players who are helping more.
I think my favorite thing about all this right now is just the fireworks going off behind the menus right there.
Yeah. We, our art style, and we've got a lot of praise on our art style and all of our visual effects. And, the game is fully voiced in English. All of our skins have, we have a lot of incentive for people to buy skins. They don't just change the appearance or the gender of the character, but they'll change voices and the way the animations are and ability effects and that kind of thing.
All right, cool. Well, Mark, thank you very much for bringing the game by. We appreciate you showing it off. Let's go ahead and remind folks out there beta status, when you guys are looking to have it finished, and PC and other platforms.
So we are in closed beta, but we're going into open beta in the coming months. Our first open beta weekend will be the weekend following E3.
Okay.
And you can join that at playpw.com. And eventually, in the coming months, when we go into full open beta, we'll be launching on Steam as well.
All right, awesome. Cool, thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. All right, guys, so that was your look at Prime World. We're going to carry on with the rest of the show in just a bit. Thanks for watching.